Oh, by the way, today's date is 9/28. And it's basically like, do you like masochistic relationships with pretty things? Well, buy a Ferrari or Lamborghini. Come on, check out the groovy interior, you guys. Yes. What's up, people? It's time to come back to Casey's 80s Garage for what will be the last video on the Porsche 928. Don't be sad, there will be more Porsches. I have a white 944 and other cool stuff coming up. But come on, let's check it out and do a walk around. Did a bit of a driving video the other day. I apologize, I had to use my camcorder, so the camera angles weren't ideal, as good as a GoPro, but I've got some new equipment, some new audio equipment that I think is gonna make the videos much better in the future. But I just wanted you to get a walk around of the final of the 928. A friend of mine bought it, so it's kind of a bummer. I never really got to enjoy it that much, but it's a really nice car and it's gonna live on and go all around. Obviously, it came out really pretty after the buffing and the ceramic coating. I actually had to get it out to record a video earlier today, so it got rained on a little bit, but that's sort of the magic of doing the Avalon King because it comes right off. But let's look at it, and most importantly, come on, let's check out the interior, because the car, you know, in the metallic gray, it looks good. It's really nice. It doesn't have the sunroof, which I kind of dig, but if you want to come around over here, I will show you. Cameron's killing it. Cameron, you're chill, camera guy. He's trying so hard. Anyway, the Porsche fabric is all kinds of groovy on the 928. Actually, man, I agree with you. This is terribly confusing. Stay there. I'm going to push the car forward so you don't keep trying to kill yourself on the Formula Continental. Okay, here we go. Let's see how well this car pushes. Actually, surprisingly good for a bigger Grand Touring car. Come on, check out the groovy interior, you guys. Yes, Porsche. It's super nice. I'm kind of bummed I'm not going to get to enjoy this. The truth about fabric interiors versus leather or vinyl, they're nicer. We just told ourselves over decades that leather's better. It's not. Back in the old days, when cars were newer and rich people wanted to be ferried around in them, the leather was for like your servant outside that they didn't even give a roof because it weathered well. And then the fine fabric was for nice. And okay, so that's a silly piece of history, but it's true. Because in the summer, when you don't want to be baking, the fabric stays cooler effectively. So you don't get burned by the leather. And in the winter, when you want to be warm, it acts like an insulator, so you're not sitting on frigid leather. So it's actually really nice to have the center of your seats be a nice fabric. And then, of course, these were redone. So it's super cool. The car has come out brilliantly. You can see the rear seats back here. And of course, these fold down, which makes your trunk space quite large. You can put in luggage or golf bags or whatever it is you need. But these are actually large enough that if you put your seats forward in the front, you could put, well, at least a small to medium-sized adult back there, which is better than a Porsche 944 and better than all those 2+2 Ferraris back in the day. So the other thing that's really cool, if you take a look in here, I replaced a number of things. So the knobs on the radio and the sliders for the air conditioning, things like that have a tendency to break. And what happens is they have sort of like a D shape on the inside right here that's plastic, and those break. And when they break, your knob is worthless and won't stay on. But there's a place down, I think in Texas, like 928 Parts or Restorations. They sell all the knobs and sliders and everything at reasonable prices, which even includes, and now you can come over to the other side, I appreciate it, sorry. Which even includes the knob here, which controls your speaker, like your balance front to rear and your speakers. So that's really cool. Obviously redid the fabric liners on the Porsche here, and you've got these, which are super cool. So it's like your armrest when you're in it. There's just a lot of really nice Grand Touring aspects of the 928, and one of those is when you adjust your steering wheel up and down, the entire binnacle moves with the gauge cluster. I mean, that takes a lot more effort in terms of engineering to do that, but that's brilliant because then your steering wheel, it doesn't block any of your gauge views. And the thing I really like about this car over, say, like a 944, which of course is a lower price car, sports car back then, versus the 928, is everything is just brilliantly laid out to drive. The pedal cluster is even better. I can actually more easily toe heel downshift. It's got a lovely steering wheel. Actually, steering wheel is basically identical to what's in my 944, but I just love how the gauge cluster is laid out. They're more similar, these gauges here are more similar to what's in a 911, but it's in a cool cluster pod, which is way racier than what a 911 was, just a big dumb dash. I'm sorry, I'm not that into 911s, okay? I'm not gonna apologize. Don't hate me. Or hate me, I don't care. 928's awesome. So I just love the way that's laid out. I love the way the controls are right here and everything at your fingertips. And it's just the car that makes me want to drive it a long distance and enjoy it for a long period of time, which is telling in the fact that the 928 was supposed to be the replacement for the 911. So I just really like that, and I've enjoyed putting this together, and I hope you guys have enjoyed the experience. I'm gonna start it up. Actually, it's running quite well. And this is an earlier car, 79 with a Bosch K-Jetronic, basically all mechanical fuel injection. So here we go. What an awesome. And keep in mind that I don't have the ideal mic on. I'm not gonna let this run forever because I don't have any windows open. Brilliant. So you probably won't hear the exhaust as I hear it here. It'll probably sound a little more mechanical on the mic, but it idles brilliantly. And the best piece of advice I have for you relating to old Bosch K-Jetronic mechanical fuel injection systems are, you need to keep them running. If you let them sit forever in the fuel varnishes, you're in big trouble. You're gonna spend a lot of money on everything. That was the problem with DeLoreans and Ferraris and old Volks. Everything that was parked for decades that never drove, it's a nightmare. And I think that's the reason why people get so frustrated with Bosch K-Jetronic systems and seem to think they're not great, is because when cars sit, they're harder to troubleshoot. And there's a number of things about the system that's not intuitive for people that are accustomed to carburetors or electric fuel injection. But once you understand how they work based on the basics of vacuum and what's going on and the warm-up pressure regulator, and it uses fuel pressure to decide how rich or lean is, and things like that, once you get how it works, they're pretty simple. And of course, when you start getting it into the ballpark, they're really great. And as long as you keep driving these things nicely and maintain them and don't get crud from a rusting fuel tank or something like that into them, keep the filters up nicely, they'll run forever and be a really reliable fuel injection system. The only downside, of course, to the fuel injection system on these early 928s, which is also the same fuel injection system was on like every 80s Volkswagen, every 80s Ferrari, every 80s Lamborghini, and like not every 80s Ferrari. I think the 280 GTO was actually smart enough to have electronic fuel injection. That's neither here nor there. Is because of the nature of them, they have that very restrictive diaphragm, that round diaphragm. But also, because of the nature of the way they work, and for early emissions, they couldn't have camshafts that had much overlap, which are good for higher RPM horsepower. So they had to make camshafts that are a little more mundane to run real smoothly and be real good, which sucks because it kills horsepower. So for instance, the Ferrari 308s, camera guy, quit trying to kill yourself. So Ferrari 308s from the late 70s to the early 80s, they're the same cars, but when they went injected and they lost like 30 horsepower, that's why. The camshafts aren't that exciting, and they have to change things to make it for that. So that was kind of a bummer, but on a car like this, I found, and come on, let's look at the back of it. I really like this car in comparison to, say, like a 944. And I was kind of thinking to myself when I went to drive it, it's not going to be very fast. I mean, it doesn't make tons of power. And the car's not heavy, but it's not like crazy lightweight. And I was amazed immediately at how much torque it has. So, and I think that's one of the things about this car that is the best. It just, when you roll into the throttle, it's just got torque and goes. I'm like, cool. It'll decimate my 944, naturally aspirated one. And actually, even for 79, this is a pretty groovy car. It moves. It would have been a fast car. And actually, the Countach I drove from the similar time period, it's similarly quick. So, I mean, a 928 or a Ferrari 512 or a Countach or all the big cars, this is a pretty bitchin' car for the time period. And it's a Grand Tour, it's understated. It's something, but and here's the key part for that time period and being kind of a cool European car. You can still daily drive it, and the maintenance isn't bad. Unlike Ferraris and Lamborghinis where the maintenance is horrific. And it's basically like, do you like masochistic relationships with pretty things? Well, buy a Ferrari or Lamborghini. But if you don't, then you should buy a Porsche and potentially a 928 because this is the car that was supposed to replace the 911. Ha! Take that 911, guys. So anyway, got all the receipts and stuff for the new owner. I think that's going to be really cool. But you can even see how cool this is. And there's even sun visors for the rear window for the rear seated passengers. Super cool. Just kind of want to show you guys that. I thought that was a really interesting and neat touch for this car at the time period. Let's see, did I shut it? Yes, I shut it, it's fine. Okay, but it's really come out well. If you kind of come down here and look at it there, I like the early cars without the spoiler. The spoilers I don't mind, but there's just something so pure about this design. I know you guys will make the jokes. I think from, what was it, The Godfather? I can't remember. With a U-boat captain? Whatever. Anyway, I think it's fascinating. It's a nice car, and Porsche's, I think it was like 1981 that they galvanized all the bodies, somewhere in that time period. But the other thing that's really nice about Porsches, it's really hard to get them to rust. You got to really just treat them like garbage. So this car obviously is very solid, very nice. And something I noticed about when I drove it the very first time, even being an older car, and camera guy, if you come this way, there's a race car here, don't die again. I'm gonna put the old floor mats in here. But the thing I noticed about it real quick when I drove it, I couldn't believe how confident this car was in the way it drove. It was just so solid without feeling heavy and stupid. It gave you it felt like it had the strength of being a car that weighed twice as much, but it was lightweight and somewhat athletic. But because it's a Grand Tourer and it was quiet, it did things I've not really experienced with another car, most especially of anything remotely of this vintage. The closest thing I can compare it to is the Aston Martin DB7 V12 Vantage I have, but that's from 2001. And yeah, while the DB7 is a superior car, because it's from 2001, doggone it, they're in the same category or caliber of cars. So I just really enjoyed this. I know it sucks when I do a video like this to share with you guys, that you guys all freak out that the prices are gonna go up, because that's what idiots do with cars. They just try to inflate prices and then hoard them away. But there's still good buys on Porsche 928s. Obviously I like a stick car, but I think it would still be an enjoyable car in an automatic. I know, horrors, I said that. But it's a great Grand Touring car. So if it's been maintained well in a later one, even if it's got more miles, I think it's still a wonderful car. Or heck, even if you just get a great chassis platform and you want to LS swap it, it's still an awesome car. So I've enjoyed getting to refurbish this car, making it right. I hope the new owner is going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be a good car for him. If you want to look inside here, I'll go around the other. And I think it's been great. So I hope this has inspired you all to enjoy your cars, kind of check out the 80s cars, because we're in a really cool time period of car history and time, because there's a lot of neat cars from approximately the 1980s, sports cars that are fun, they're enjoyable, and they're daily drivable. And they're cars that, frankly, you could drive every day of the year, have a little style, have a little fun, and you can do it more economically than ever buying a new car and losing money to depreciation. So that's really wonderful. Also, I hate that I just said that out loud, because now a bunch of lobbyists from the automotive industry are going to try to ruin our life and ban old cars. So we should not vote for them. But anyway, it's really been enjoyable. And the other thing too is, God, I can't talk. For the people who have watched my channel and know me, I really despise the nature of car price inflation and these super wealthy collectors and auctions and stuff that just inflate prices beyond belief. They hoard cars, you never see them in the whole concours scene, basically. Love car history, but it's really ruined the enjoyment of vintage cars, classic cars, and specialty cars. They don't come out as much. They don't get worked on as much. It hurts the boutique industries that sell parts for them even, because they get restored once and they just sit in a collection. So I've just been enjoying this time period of cars, because they're not hoity-toity enough for those people, which is nice, that the prices stay somewhat reasonable for everybody to enjoy. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and if this 928 refurbishment and videos have meant anything to you, I hope it just inspires you to get out there and have fun with your cars, work on them, watch YouTube videos, get inspired, learn how to do that, and just enjoy the car community and drive your cars, okay? Mileage matters for resale and all that, but it doesn't. I mean, my Viper's about ready to turn over 100,000 miles. The 944s I've got has 150,000 miles, and you know what? They're both awesome cars, and I'm gonna keep putting more miles on them. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. But I really wanted to just go over the 928 with you and just show you what it's all about. I've enjoyed the process. I think it's a wonderful car. And honestly, it really wasn't that scary to work on. There are some things, and I'll pop the hood one last time here. There are some things about it that are trickier to work on. And I've heard with the later 928s, when they got 4 cams and whatnot, that there's tricky things you have to do when you change something in a motor. You gotta like dismount the motor and move it over and whatnot. And you look at this and you think, oh my gosh, it's so packed in there, you can't work on it. But truthfully, this plastic air directors here for the airbox just come right off. And then that exposes the cam housing here. And the timing belt, which is just a single timing belt, is readily accessible from the front of the car right here. You know, if it was a Ferrari or Lamborghini, you'd have to be taking out the engine or removing the hood and bending over backwards for like 15 hours just to do it. So it's really not bad. And then when you remove the air cleaner and stuff, you can easily access the Bosch Cagetronic fuel injection system from back here, and you can see all the lines. And honestly, I just don't think it was that bad to work on. Obviously, it's a little more tricky and it's a little more packed than a 944, but I've really enjoyed the process, and it's given me a new appreciation for these cars, and just kind of reaffirmed my love for working on these older 80s cars and just enjoying driving and working on something because I like it and not because anybody in a magazine or anyone else says it's cool. So I hope you guys enjoy your cars and your own 80s garage for the same reason, because you like it and not because anyone else does. I'll catch you guys next time. Oh, by the way, today's date is 9/28. Ha ha ha!